Okay lah, I think this won't be new to most of you lah. So I'm going to go through it still. But I see whether I can add in any new perspective along the way. So any question you have, feel free to ask me. There are certain things that I took away from a program that I entered recently that I think might be helpful. So I included into some of the slides here. Yeah, can okay. So okay, just to go through the standard stuff lah. I'm from the concept. We are a social enterprise that does learning and development. We focus very much on Skills Future funded program in the area of the social service skills framework. We are also recently quite involved with training some of the volunteers from the different agencies like Youthline, Caring SG. So a lot of agencies who are running volunteers-led program kind of like are facing a need in that. So we are supporting those areas. And yes, we also recently appointed a HPP provider for mental health workshops for communities, as well as for schools and corporates. So those are just some of the things that we're doing now. Okay, I won't go into all this. Okay,
Congratulations,
yes. Hey, thanks, Jimmy. I like the depth of your voice. Yes, okay. So what I'm going to do today, I think okay, I think for DORP, for those who have presented, we are also running the DORP. So if you have, we are introducing some new programs coming up from September all the way to next year. So if you have attended all our range of like the earlier modules, right, feel free to join the next batch of it. So we'll be talking about some of the topics will be like mental health, sexual and violence offender, working in sexual and violence offender, CBT, introduction to CBT or concepts. Not say the full range of CBT therapy and all, but introduction to cognitive behavioral concepts, casework management, and trauma and grief. So if you have friends who have not taken the DRP programs, feel free to encourage them to join. Next year will be our last year of the contract. So we'll be running until the end of December. Yeah, so cannot. Okay, and for today's session, right, I think the things I'm going to bring in has not been covered in DRP, so it might be new to most of you. For Yuna, who have attended a lot of our other programs, please bear with me and raise any questions that you want to bring along. Some of this could be a bit of a repeat, but I think these are important fundamental skill set that we don't really touch on in DRP itself. Okay, so welcome Daniel, welcome Joshua. So feel free to ask me if you have any questions. So let me get into it today. Okay, so today I'm going to do a bit different. I know we're going to watch a video before, just to contextualize what we are doing today. So this video will give us a frame of mind as to why we are covering and trying to understand some of the topics I'm going to cover later. So I'm just going to play the video. Let me know if you can hear the sound, Ken.
Yep, can hear.
How many of you are blamers? How many of you, when something goes wrong, the first thing you want to know is whose fault it is? Hi, my name is Brene. I am a blamer. Let me just tell you this quick story. So this is a couple years ago when I first realized the magnitude to which I blame. I'm in my house. I have on white slacks and a pink sweater set, and I'm drinking a cup of coffee in my kitchen. It's a full cup of coffee. I drop it on the tile floor. It goes into a million pieces, splashes up all over me. And a millisecond after it hit the floor, right out of my mouth is this: "Damn you, Steve." Who is my husband? Because let me tell you how fast this works for me. So Steve plays water polo with a group of friends. And the night before, he went to go play water polo. And I said, hey, make sure you come back at 10, because I can never fall asleep until you're home. And he got back at 10:30. And so I went to bed a little bit later than I thought. Ergo, my second cup of coffee that I probably would not be having had he come home when we discussed. Therefore, and so the rest of that story is I'm cleaning up the kitchen. Steve calls, caller ID. I'm like, hey. He's like, hey, what's going on, babe? What's going on? So I'll tell you exactly what's going on. I'm cleaning up the coffee that spilled all, like dial tone. Because he knows. How many of you go to that place when something bad happens, the first thing you want to know is whose fault is it? I'd rather it be my fault than no one's fault. Because why? Why? Because it gives us some semblance of control. But here, if you enjoy blaming, this is where you should stick your fingers in your ear and do the na-na-na-na thing, because I'm getting ready to ruin it for you. Because here's what we know from the research. Blame is simply the discharging of discomfort and pain. It has an inverse relationship with accountability. Accountability, by definition, is a vulnerable process. It means me calling you and saying, hey, my feelings were really hurt about this, and talking. It's not blaming. Blaming is simply a way that we discharge anger. People who blame a lot seldom have the tenacity and grit to actually hold people accountable, because we expend all of our energy raging for 15 seconds and figuring out whose fault something is. And blaming is very corrosive in relationships, and it's one of the reasons we miss our opportunities for empathy. Because when something happens and we're hearing a story, we're not really listening. We're in the place where I was, making the connections as quickly as we can about whose fault something was.
All right. Any thoughts about why I showed this video as a contextualization to today's topic on helping and empathy? Can type in the chat if you want to. No. If you feel brave enough to unmute and shout out, feel free to do so.
Waifu,
Yes.
I'm actually very thankful that you shared this video today, because so more than often as helpers, what happened is that when we hear our clients start sharing and this, with certain profile, they tend to blame everyone and everything, but they are never at fault. And then as a helper, we end up going like, oh no, here we go again. But, apart from listening intently, what else can I say, And then we go around the line of, oh, it seems that you are, but it just doesn't get through. So I'm
Yes.
actually very thankful that you shared this video.
Thanks, Yuna. Yuna, are you feeling okay? Your voice also a bit like like.
Yeah. Actually, I've been, being a rock star for the past few nights, so then recovering stage. Yeah.
Okay, thanks, Yuna. Okay, Yuna, thanks for that. Before I go on to wrap up, what Yuna was saying, anyone else want to share about why do you think I shared this video? I think there's one insight already. Any other insights as to why I might have shared this? Yes, Command.
Yeah, okay. You see, everyone has temper, including me. So at times we cannot control. We have to let go what we want to say. Okay. Except for yourself. You don't okay, that's my feeling. Okay, thank you.
Okay, thanks, Command. Okay, so thanks, Yuna. Thanks, Command. Actually, the reason why I brought this up today is because we see this habit and the pattern sometimes in the beneficiaries that we support. When something happens, instead of looking at themselves, they tend to blame everybody else, right? But if you think about it, the parallel process, right, then in our mind, right, we also go, alamak, here he goes again. That's why he got into this trouble, right? Jialat lah, this person. And then that process of kind of like labeling and blaming the clients comes in as well. So I was just talking, I think this was an interesting video for us to actually wrap up, introduce today's topic. So today's topic, I'm not going to cover techniques because I don't want to rush through the techniques part, and the techniques are covered in some of the top modules that you guys are all have access to. But I just want to maybe frame the mindset a little bit more now that we are going into towards the helping process. So the reason why what we're going to cover today, right, is actually we're going to do a bit more introspection. We're going to look at a bit at ourselves, and maybe also to equip you with some of the understanding of the common terms that we usually use when we talk about helping. Common terms like empathy, what does it actually mean? How do you demonstrate? Someone asks, hey, what's empathy? How do you live up to empathy? Sometimes people frustrate me so much. Then what's the kind of mindset that we should adopt? So that is really the purpose of today's session. So if you have any question along the way, feel free to drop me any questions. Can you talk and ask? Okay, so what I'm going to start with, last week, just a quick recap. Last week, we covered about some of the common issues why conversations get stuck. For example, advice giving. For example, the writing reflex, the urge to want to persuade, correct, and when you hear something, you straight want to tell the person it is not the way, because there's a real intention, is coming from a good intention, but a lot of time it doesn't really work in conversations. So we cover a lot of these pitfalls. And today what we're going to do is then, now that we know the pitfalls, what then should we be embracing that may help us in our conversation with our clients? So the very first thing I'm going to bring you all through today will be, actually it's going to center around just three simple concepts of three core values. It's a very simplified, in real world there's more than that, but I'm just going to keep it a bit simplified. these 3 core values that I think resembles in a lot of things that we do. And I'm going to break it down a little bit more to make it more practical and relevant for you guys. Okay, so I'm going to start with core value number 1. I'm going to show you another video. As you're watching this video, can you guess what value this is, Ken? I know you all don't have any slides. I don't send anything. Louis has not sent anything, so we'll send it after that. So I'm going to play this video. Okay.
Awesome job! You know what I'm thinking? Snack time! Let's go. Okay, let's see what we have here. Which one do you want? That wasn't nice of Rachel. Where did she pick up those greedy tendencies? Taking both apples and biting into them. That's so unlike her.
Dad? Dad? Dad?
What is it, honey?
Have this one. This apple's more juicier and sweeter.
All right. Okay. No prize to the winner, but guess your core value number 1. In helping as a helper, as a sons or helper, what could be your first core value that you think is important for us to adopt based on the video? Or you can write it in the chat as well. Yes.
Don't
Somebody
jump to conclusion.
All right. Ellie say don't jump to conclusion. Very close to it. So what I'm gonna do, what I'm gonna talk about in the first value, right? I'm gonna push it a bit more is this core idea of non-judgmental. Okay, so the first core value I'm gonna talk about is non-judgmental. And before I start, right, can I just ask what is your understanding of non-judgmental? Ellie just say already, don't jump to conclusion.
Don't pass judgment.
Don't pass judgment. Okay. Any other thoughts?
Okay, can I share? Okay, non-judgmental means you just observe, you don't say anything. Let the whoever maybe he keep on talking or doing something. That is my okay.
So come on, you hold back your judgment, you hold back what's going through your mind.
Yeah.
Correct. You keep cool and calm, just observant.
All the voices that say he's a liar is really trusting.
Okay.
Just be curious. Just be curious, because when you're curious, there's no way for you to be judging, right? Because you're just being curious.
Okay, I really like what Florence said. I'm going to touch on that. That point is really quite critical. Okay, so now I sense that you guys are all expert in this concept called non-judgmental. I'm going to give you a real case.
Not true.
I'm going to give you a real case. Okay, I want to see how you respond to me, Ken. So imagine I am your client. Okay, I'm your client. And you know that I have a history of family abuse, domestic violence. Ken, I used to have. And one day, but you have been working with me for a while, you're my befriender. We have been befriending for a while already. And I kind of trust you. I trust you. And one day I come to you, and then I say this, hey, Florence or Jimmy, hey, brother or sister, wow, last week was my birthday, I want to share with you something. You asked me how am I? It was good. Last week on my birthday, and my friends all came there. And then two of my friends, my buddy from many years ago, gave me this bottle of vodka. Wow, I feel damn good, I really am happy and enjoy it. So what I did was I pour for all of them. Then my two twin daughters come to me and say, hey, Papa, what is this? Very nice. Can I try? So what I did was I just give them 2 glasses. I mix with Ribena. I make sure it's sweet because I know they like it. I give them 2 glasses of Ribena like that. Not a lot half vodka, half Ribena. I know the cocktail mixture cannot too much. I pass to them. Wow, they really love it a lot, no? And then I feel so happy. So I was very happy. I feel that, actually I spent a good time with my family that day. Okay. Maybe before I go into it, take a time to digest that conversation. And what might be something that's going through your mind?
Turning your children into alcoholics. Judgmental.
The first thing that come to mind is stupid fool.
Judgmental. Okay.
So what will be some question that you, or what some response that you'll say to me? In your original way, don't need to just how will you respond to me?
I would say, tell me more. What did they? How much do you put into the Ribena? The amount of vodka.
Okay.
I was just curious. Yeah.
Okay. Then I'll say I'll respond to that. I say, yeah, Jimmy, don't worry lah. I know they're young, they cannot take a lot. So my glass is this big lah. I at least give them. I make sure it's like maybe 30% alcohol, 70% Ribena. Don't want to be too strong lah. Children cannot too strong, you know. Okay, anyone else? Okay, thanks, Jimmy. Any other things? Any other responses you might have for me?
Oh, someone wrote, "Did you enjoy your Ribena?"
Yeah, daughter enjoy. Wow, they love
Angela.
it. Angela, they love it. They love it a lot. You're really so happy, you know. I think it's the first time I let them drink lah, and I cannot expect that actually they actually quite like it lah.
In future, will they ask for more?
Ask for more, okay lah. Once in a while, give them a little bit, no harm lah. Must train them since they're young.
Train them.
Train them.
Yeah, train them lah.
What do you mean? Can you share a bit more? What do you mean by train them?
Last time when I young, you know how what age I started drinking? I started when I was 8 years old. My father gave me, you see now, I don't get cheated by people. Like I can tahan alcohol, no. Some more I'm boy, okay lah. The girls later 16 years old, the boys start to, you know, last time I also one of those guys lah. Give my girlfriend alcohol and then do funny things with them one.
So do you think that was a good idea to give, this cocktail to your children?
I think it's okay. I think it's rather that I train them young, then they grow up, then they start to want to drink alcohol. Then drink with friends, I cannot control. I rather they drink with me first.
So do you give them any word of caution after that?
No need lah. I tell them, say, okay, you start with drink with Papa. Papa young train you. Next time you old already, you don't get cheated by boy. Last time Papa very naughty also. Any other thoughts? Okay, very good. Okay, I pause it here. How do you find the conversation? Okay, Engineer asked, Joshua asked, did they have hangover or side effect? Then they said, no lah, just a little bit, like one glass one time, don't have side effect one lah. They very happy lah. Maybe I also wouldn't know if they sleep already, right? Have you ever fall sick? No, they haven't fall sick before. Okay, they were okay. Today they wake up still okay. They go to school. Okay, let's pause it here. How do you find that conversation? What do you think is happening in this conversation?
He's future proving his daughter to make sure that they don't fall into a trap. Yeah, but the 30-70 is a bit disheartening. If you say 5-95, then maybe it's acceptable, but 30-70 is like a lot.
Okay, so Jimmy, your tolerance level is 595 lah. 30-70 is too much. But if you say,
or maybe 199 kind of thing, or just how are they 14 years old, is it?
No, they are actually both of them were 5 years old.
5 years old lah. Wow.
Yeah, 4-5 years old. This is a real case. This is a real case I had. A friend of mine used to be in the SS member also.
I would be tongue-tied basically.
Okay, but why are you tongue-tied? Maybe what is the thing that you're struggling with?
No, I think because alcohol kills the brain cell. So for 5-year-old kid, you give 30% alcohol, they'll definitely wipe whatever brain cells they have. And then it also doesn't put them in the right light in that sense, because it could be addictive, it could be bad for the liver. So there are a lot of things that come out to say that it may not be good for the child, especially 5 years. We talk about teenagers, fine, because that's what my uncle did to his to my nieces. He didn't give them everything, but just tell them the dangers of drinking in a club and all that. Yeah.
Okay, thanks, Jimmy. So right, straight away in your mind, you already know that this is harmful, right? And that guided the conversation. Right? I guess when Florence and some of you are asking, have you felt sick? Do you think they have any side effects? Those were actually, do you hear what is guiding your mindset? Okay, there's already this idea of like, hey, this is not right. This is not right. And this is dangerous. Maybe even that, are you sure you know how to be a father? Are you sure you're doing the right thing? So I'm just wondering, this is a question to all of you. So, do you think we can really be non-judgmental?
Okay, waifu, can I share? Okay, in that case, or whatever, I would ask this my client, would you try maybe try to give it to your daughter again? What do you think? I mean, you ask this question and see whether he's going to try again.
Okay, thanks.
That's my tactic. Instead of say, well, it's no good, then he will say reject you. No? Okay.
Thanks, Koma. And what if he says, I will give it again. It's important to train them young. A bit like that, 30, 70, okay, no harm.
So let's try give it again. Then you will see the actual effect.
Okay.
Then only we say the judgment.
Okay, can. So what is happening here is that actually we are starting a conversation from the position of the helper. The position of the helper where all our values and what we think is right and wrong are coming in. So even Jimmy, it's a good thing. 5% is more tolerable to me than 30% because of the age. So this is where the position of the helper is. And in so doing, right, the real question is, I should like what Florence said. If we are curious, if you really hear the story, right, what were the values of the client? So let's say now some of you ask, right, why do you give, right? And then he said this, when I was young, I already started drinking alcohol. I used to be also those naughty boys who, at 16 years old, give the girls who cannot drink and start doing funny things with them. I rather that my daughter drinks with me now and I train them, than they later on go and drink with someone and get cheated. Right? We are hearing all the red flag going on, right? Alcohol, young child drinking. But what are we not hearing now? What is the value? What is important to this guy? What do you all get from him? If you now you have to suspend your alarm, just hold the discomfort there, let it go, and start to listen to his justification. What do you hear in this client's story?
Waifu, actually, I do agree to a certain extent what he's doing. Not that it's totally right, but the intention of it, which I think is quite clear. So I think maybe the concept of it is to roll with it first, is to identify what he's doing, but at the same time to ask him what he thinks there are some concerns if we do that in terms of the side effects. Like maybe, lead him along the line of the age, where is the age is a child able to understand at such a young age what he's doing? And secondly is the side effects of it. How does he intend to address that concern? Okay. So I'm sure he also is aware of the side effects, which he needs to then calibrate in terms of how he does this stuff. On one hand, future proofing, at the same time also safeguarding the side effects, which he needs to get the child to be able to understand in due course.
Yeah.
So,
thanks,
so
Louis.
something along the line.
Okay, it's a good point. So the key point here is I want to roll along with it first. And I think if you look at the chat now, Ali is saying he wants to be a protective father, right? He's worried that his daughter gets cheated when they're older. He has love for his daughter. Actually, he's telling you all these things, but we have not acknowledged it at all. So remember, when someone is telling you a story, there are certain values that he's trying to tell you. And before we can start correcting his behavior, it's important for us to acknowledge what he's trying to say. These are the non-explicit things that they're telling you, the implicit things. And as helpers, it's important for us to pick it up. But a lot of time we fail to pick this up, not because that we are not good, but it's because of the position that we are coming in. We're helpers, we are worried about the consequences. From the position of the helper, we know that there are dangers. And when we start to act on our position of where we're coming in from, the acknowledgement for the client is gone. And when you start to question him on his behavior, the very immediate tendency is to, you're not hearing me. I must tell you why I'm doing it. Of course, it's important. Why cannot? And then we go into this dialogue because he's telling you that, hey, you're not hearing me. I'm telling you that I'm trying to be a protective father. I love my daughter, I want to have a good time with them, but we have not acknowledged that. So I'm also not saying that you don't address it, which I'll come to the third value later. It's not that we just, okay, good lah, hey, you drink alcohol, good, I drink a bond. It's not about that. But what is important here is we really need to start to separate a client's behavior from their value as a person. Yeah. So one of the way when we talk about non-judgmental, yes, Daniel, yes.
Yeah. Hearing what you're saying, because the acknowledging part is the part that is acknowledging it so that he understand his value, to understand his value, and from there, likely he will hear us what we say, right? Is that what you're trying to bring across?
Yes, Daniel, very good point. Because when you work on the behavior, when we correct the behavior, hey, Daniel, you know that alcohol is not good for your child. Why do you give him? The first reaction is to be defensive. Because under that behavior, there's a positive intention that he's trying to achieve.
Correct.
But if you acknowledge that positive intention, he might be more receptive to, okay, he agrees, he hears that you understand that actually I have a positive intention, but then maybe you're telling me my ways is not right. Maybe he might be more open to the suggestion later on.
Because I find this is very important. A lot of time I find that why the thing never get through. Although all these things I think he already know it. Why the thing is not getting across it. I think it is knowledging part that is missing. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Daniel. So yeah, sorry, someone saying. No, okay. So when you talk about non-judgmental, right, people always say, oh, we can be let's be non-judgmental. One of the value non-judgmental. Actually, it's very hard for us to be non-judgmental. Our judgment will generally form because of the roles we play, our own life experiences. It will come out. But what's more important is to suspend it and really go what Florence said, be curious about the story and start to listen out for the values of the individual. His behaviors are usually, what he's doing is usually the problem one. And it tends to distract us from actually what the underlying values that the person is trying to tell us. If you can acknowledge that, the chances of you building a rapport and later on a relationship to correct him is much higher. So can we always be non-judgmental? I may be wrong. I find it quite difficult. But it's whether I'm aware of the judgment, and if I want to navigate it, one of the ways to navigate is really to be curious and then start to look for the values. When he did that, what was he trying to achieve? And I think if you're I'm not sure they are familiar with the good life model. I find the good life model, the different domains of what everybody wants in life as neutral, like family. Usually those tends to be a good way to look at values. Yeah, So non-judgmental is the first principle I want to highlight. And usually it is also a trap for us if we are not mindful. Okay, this is something that it's not scientific, but it's something that I find useful in engaging with clients. If you are struggling with being non-judgmental, if you are struggling to really see certain angle from the positive in the person, one way you can adopt is that you can kind of just think of people may not be in this one of these three categories. There are a lot of people who are not aware and don't know how to change it. Let me give you an example. When I was interviewing male violent perpetrator of domestic abuse, and when they start to talk to you, a lot of time they are not aware that their behaviors are actually having a problem to the family, and actually they don't know how to actually stop it at all. There's no knowledge. They will tell you that, I want to be I'm trying my best really, but my wife cannot understand. Then our children is all in a mess, so I have to discipline them so I whack them You know how to discipline them. And it's amazing because when you put them through, when you psychoeducated, when they get into the whole system, right, then there's always counseling that you go through. Just having that knowledge actually shifts the way they actually treat their children. So there's a group who may not be aware and they don't know what to do. And then there's another group who is aware. They know that there's a problem, but they might not know how to handle it. Yeah, and then these are the group that you might want to equip them with skill set. I know that after I go home, of course I go home, I walk past my thing, my friend want to say hi to me. I know that I shouldn't be talking to them, but sometimes it's very difficult. I don't know how to say no. Yeah, they know that the behavior is not helpful, but they might not know how to do it. Then you want to work with them on the skill set and also address any barriers to them adopting some of these skills that you're going to train with them. Okay, so there's this group as well. And then there's this one last group who are aware. They know what they need to do, but they just don't want to. And this is usually the challenging group lah. And we also call this the pre-contemplation stage. They are not ready for the change. They don't see a problem. They know that actually there's certain problem that is related to this, but they don't see an issue with it. They feel that it's all right to go on. Okay, and then these are the group where you have to really ask your own expectations. If your expectation is for him to change his behavior, you're going to burn out very fast. Because he don't even see it as a problem, and you're telling him it's a problem, and you want him to change. Helping him see it as a problem is already difficult enough, and now you want him to change that behavior, right? It's like you are going 3-4 steps way above the individual. So this is a recipe for burnout. Yeah. Okay. So if you are struggling to make sense of a client, this is a good gauge, but it's not scientific. So don't use it to label. Use it just as a framework for yourself to kind of like, ask yourself certain questions to see, okay, maybe this person, he's struggling with this is it because he's not aware? Is it because he doesn't know how to handle it? Or is it because he's not ready for change? And then what is my positioning? What's my stance? How should I adopt them?
So can we say that these are the 3 stances that is suitable for pre-contemplative stage in general?
May not necessarily be. So for example, sometimes when we engage with a client and then the client seems to be stuck in certain cycle, and I'm not sure why, sometimes I'll just take a step back and then I'll just ask myself, actually, is it because that he's not aware that this is causing this problem for him? Maybe he's not aware that this behavior, maybe then my job is to go in there and really explore and see whether I can bring in a perspective to see how this behavior actually affects his problems. If he's aware and keep telling me I cannot, I don't know how to, right, then maybe it's because there's some cognitive things I have to address, or maybe the skill set that I have to address. But then there's always this group that say, I want to go out, I'm going to take drug, I need drug, I'll take no problem, I'm still young, I can still tahan, right? Then I'll ask myself, what is my expectation? What can I do with him? Because if I want him to change and tell me by this 10 or 15 session with me that I'm going to stop drugs, maybe I'm also a bit too hard on myself. Yeah. Maybe I want to just plant the seed in him and see whether I can just give him some doubts about his choices that is what he wants to make.
Yeah, waifu.
Yes.
I have a question, right? Or suggestion. And my suggestion is that when somebody tells you he does certain things, right, like this, right? If you don't agree, right, you want to say that you don't agree, but I hear you. I think I do this in the corporate area, but I don't know much about the areas that we are now dwelling in, right? But I think it's important to also state your perspective. And it's not judgmental. It is more about stating where you are, because you want him to get to a space, right? But you also want him to know that you don't agree with it.
Yeah. So thanks, Lauren. That's a good point. So in a way, right, when we talk about this whole idea of identifying, I go back to this slide, identifying the value, right? It can be very powerful to give feedback. So for example, let's say this father, right? If I need to give this father who is giving alcohol to the child, right? Then by first acknowledging the value and then highlighting that, but I have some concerns.
That's right.
But at least straight away he knows that, hey, actually, example, I say, Lawrence, actually, I hear that you give your daughter alcohol because you want to protect them. You want to be a good father.
Yeah, I don't give my daughters alcohol like you.
but when I hear you give daughter, I have some concerns because personally I do have there are some things that's on my mind. Are you open for me to share with you?
Yeah,
so yes, well, okay, but yeah, then at least it kind of like acknowledges and quickly let the person connect with that. You are actually you do get what they are saying, what they're trying to tell you.
But then this part about letting him know that you have some concerns, can they be done later or not? You know what I mean?
Yes,
so that
can also be.
so that you can do more exploration, and that's what I mean by curiosity, more.
Yeah, definitely. You can put it any way you want. It's just that you got to be also acknowledging the fact. He's supposed to acknowledge the fact that, hey, listen, I don't agree with you, but I understand. I know what you're talking about, and I understand. That's most important, because you're making a stand as well, because you want him to come to that place.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, you want him to come to that place, but you have to create that pathway. So you also must make sure he knows that you don't agree with him.
Yeah, true.
Yeah.
These are all good discussion because there's a lot of factors that will actually impact all this. For example, the readiness of the client to work on the issues is one.
That's right.
And the rapport you have with him is also another one. If you have very good rapport, and also I also think the other one is also the the context of which you have already prepared him for what the session is about. So for example, if you have already prepared him that, hey, actually, Florence, I'm your befriender, but I'm also like kind of like your support lah. So are you open if in our relationship, as I journey with you, there'll be things where if I don't agree, I'll actually tell you lah. But I won't tell you, I won't like kind of like blame you on you, but I'll just tell you directly what's on my mind. So you already set the expectations of the relationship, right? It may make it easier.
Yes.
Yeah. So these are all factors that can help or can affect whether your decision, whether you want to actually confront immediately or engage, explore, be curious, then you bring up the issue.
Because there are many, of them, you're right, you're absolutely right. And there are many ways of saying it. You don't shout at a guy, of course. You be very cordial, your tonality, your form, the words that you use, it's very important.
Depends on also how much time you have with the person, right?
Well, yes, correct.
We don't have much time, especially when we see them, in the prison context.
We
don't have much time.
Yeah. So these are good discussion, good point. I think these are all helpful because I can sense that you guys are already integrating, making sense of this perspective into your actual work and how you might want to operationalize it with the clients that you are working with. But I hope this gives you a bit of food for thought from this.
Can I bring another case? I have a client who is a molester, and he wants to go back to the front line. Because to him, he say, I didn't molest the girl. The judge says I do. So I find it a big struggle in the sense that, I mean, if you go back to the front line to work in 7-Eleven, definitely, I mean, in Singapore, if any girl turn around and say, you touch me, that's it. The police will come, do profiling, bring you in jail, don't even have to ask questions, that kind of thing. But he still insists that he wants to work in this line. So how do you actually help him to see there are dangers? And he keep denying that, I can handle it. I don't think it will happen. So I was slowly trying to bring him towards logistic to get because you have no contact anybody, there's no customer interface, that kind of thing. But he still insists that I don't know who's telling the truth in that sense, but he yeah, okay. So that's the case that I'm experiencing at the moment.
Okay. Thanks, Jimmy. Yeah,
No
anyone can feel free to chip in. Okay, it's open. I'll just share a bit of my thoughts first. I think
if you let him know the consequence of let's say if he fail in his so-called appeal, then what's going to happen? Will that help or not? Because he may not always win. So if you let him know, say okay, if you attempt this, but you fail, then what's the consequence?
So thanks, Florence, for that. I'm going to ask Jimmy one question. The question I'm asking is actually, when you are trying to dissuade him from going to the front line, right? Where is the intention coming from? Is
the
it
intention? Sorry, say again.
Yeah, where is that? Where is the intention of the?
I think the concern that I have, actually, I share with him, I'm concerned for it because my friends are in the police and they were telling me for molestation cases, any girl just point at you and you get into trouble, that kind of thing. So I just wondering what made you want to go into this area. I also know where he's coming from in the sense that he has always been in the customer service area and he cannot take in logistic. I also acknowledge it, but at the end, I think he still really have to make his own choice. But definitely the trigger point is higher in terms of customer service contact, because I'm in customer service, so I know you can accidentally, touch somebody and somebody gets upset, that kind of thing, especially when you have a record. So it's really challenging like that.
Okay, I think first thing, if the intention is coming from the concern for individual, then I think it's all right to go into the direction. But if the intention is coming from the other perspective of custodian safety, whether he's a harm threat to the community by going back into the area, then I think the conversation will be what. But I think you're on the right track. It means your intention is coming from the fact that actually concern for you, there'll be triggers that you may be exposed to. Then the question is, but then by also have to understand his motivations, right? Because his strengths, his experience, and getting him to another new line that may not fit into him may be a bit of a challenge as well.
I agree with you. Yeah, so he's a supervisor, in the customer service area.
All right. So then this becomes the client's right to self-determination. How much do we acknowledge that? Like he does have a right to decide. And then what is your role in that journey then? And I think you already brought up some important points. There is triggers. How does he manage that? Those are the conversations that he might need to be prepared for, or you might need to work with him on. But dissuading him from going into it because there's a concern on your side, the anxiety is coming from you, may not work very well with the relationship. Yeah. Yeah. So I feel this is just my take. More importantly is if you could help him understand all this and the door is open, if you really feel a trigger, at least you know that he might come to you to talk about it. So the last thing you want him to feel is that, hey, actually, Jimmy, you're just another one of those who tell me that because I have sexual offense criteria, I should not go into this. I don't think you understand me. Then he cuts away from you. He still goes ahead and do what he wants to do. And then when there's trigger, his support is practically lost already. Yeah.
I think most important, Jimmy, I think you have to, it is his choice. I think it's important. You have played your part and you're trying to sort of make him see an angle that you probably see because you've been in it for such a long time. But the choice is actually his. And I suppose it's a risk. Yeah, so I just thought.
Yeah, so I just share him once, that's it. Then that's it, I let it be. Then let him talk about what he wants to do, that kind of thing.
Yeah. But Jimmy, thanks for that. I think there's quite a lot of you're quite conscious about your own inner awareness of what is driving you to have those conversations, which I think is important. Actually, I think that's more important than just making sure that things don't happen to the client now. Because you never know, those having it in the right direction, sometimes you leave the door open for him to come to you when he actually faces a trigger. Yeah. Thanks everyone.
But having said that, right, I just want to just say, but even though we know their concerns and he has chosen and determined that he wants to stay in customer service because that's what he really wants to do from the sound of it. Actually, we can still get him to think about what are the safeguards he will have to insert into his own things because he knows that it's a fact whether he's guilty or not that there will be an additional layer of scrutiny once an incident happens. So therefore, it's a practical thing for him to think about what he wants to do to safeguard himself a bit more. Yeah, so then there's still ways. What additional precautions he can work in. So he obviously that's a very practical thing and he will take that in very likely. Because it's a fact of life, whether you disagree or agree with the court that this is a case that you've been charged with. So it's a fact of life that you need to work in with more precautions in this industry. Yeah.
Thanks, Luis. Yes. So I think Jimmy, I think this is a good discussion. I think at the end of the day, sorry.
But in my heart, I feel that he won't be able to make it because of his offense.
He won't be able to get a job, you mean?
He won't get a job. Yeah. So in my heart, I was thinking like, okay, I don't think he will make it because of his offense, basically. You know that kind of when it happens, you're like, okay, all right, okay, well, let's work on it if you're really keen on going to customer service. But in my heart, I think that would anybody want to take a risk?
Yeah. So Jimmy, actually, I have a similar case where I have helping out with ex-inmate who is also had this child molestation case and wants to resume his practice and so he's been trying to apply to get back his license Yeah, and then I mean, all of us feel otherwise that you'll be quite a long shot but I mean he's trying and what we can do is just to help him in practical ways at the same time to get him to think about alternatives even as he's trying So you can't stop him from trying and you also don't really want to squash his hope. And we actually don't really 100% know whether he'll get it, although we have our doubts. So I guess that's as best as you can do. Yeah.
Thanks for this. I think this is an important conversation because it fundamentally drives down to whether we end up taking charge of the client's direction because of our own anxiety or our own thoughts about what is best for them. So being able to withhold that actually can be quite challenging. And I think in this conversation, I think I'm hearing actually all of us are quite aware. And even Jimmy, in your case, you're actually withholding that direction.
So the point here is how far down the road do we continue to guide these people? Is it as and when we need it, or do we continue because we feel compelled to help? And it could take ages, right? It could take a long time because you're guiding a person through a process. Are we doing that as part of our roles here? Or once the guy succeeds in a career, we let him go or let her go? It's a question.
Yeah. It's a difficult question because it really then goes back down to the roles that the agency and the purpose of the relationship that they have set up for that journey with the client. Because like some programs are really short term, it's just to stabilize and let go. Some are befriending that's longer term. Then that one have to be clear about the roles, because you also don't want to get entangled in a relationship where the client has very high dependence on you and cannot step on their own. Everything have to consult you for everything.
I understand.
Thanks everyone. Okay, thanks everyone for the lovely discussion. I'm going to move on to the second one. I think this is something that's more common to everybody. It's called empathy. For this one, actually, I just want to highlight some key factors when we talk about empathy. And also I want to talk a bit more about sympathy, because sometimes it's a bit hard to differentiate the two. Okay, I think a lot of you have watched this video before. I'm just going to play it again now. This is about empathy.
So what is empathy, and why is it very different than sympathy? Empathy fuels connection. Sympathy drives disconnection. Empathy, it's very interesting. Teresa Wiseman is a nursing scholar who studied professions, very diverse professions where empathy is relevant, and came up with 4 qualities of empathy. Perspective taking, the ability to take the perspective of another person or recognize their perspective as their truth. Staying out of judgment, not easy when you enjoy it as much as most of us do. Recognizing emotion in other people and then communicating that. Empathy is feeling with people. And to me, I always think of empathy as this kind of sacred space when someone's kind of in a deep hole and they shout out from the bottom and they say, I'm stuck, it's dark, I'm overwhelmed. And then we look and we say, hey, you climb down. I know what it's like down here, and you're not alone. Sympathy is, ooh, it's bad, no. You want a sandwich? Empathy is a choice, and it's a vulnerable choice, because in order to connect with you, I have to connect with something in myself that knows that feeling. Rarely, if ever, does an empathic response begin with at least. And we do it all the time. Because you know what? Someone just shared something with us that's incredibly painful, and we're trying to silver lining it. I don't think that's a verb, but I'm using it as one. We're trying to put the silver lining around it. So, I had a miscarriage. Oh, at least you know you can get pregnant. I think my marriage is falling apart. At least you have a marriage. John's getting kicked out of school. At least Sarah is an A student. But one of the things we do sometimes in the face of very difficult conversations is we try to make things better. If I share something with you that's very difficult, I'd rather you say, I don't even know what to say right now, I'm just so glad you told me. Because the truth is, rarely can a response make something better. What makes something better is connection.
I think this is quite a common video. I guess you all also have a good understanding of empathy. But I just have this question for you. Is empathy a mindset or behavior? For you now, please don't answer. I know you know the answer. Yes, what do you think? Empathy is as a mindset or a behavior? Any thoughts?
I think it's both. At first, it's your mindset, and then your action. So it's a behavior. It's a combination.
Combination.
The rest all agree? I see Florence nodding also. Jimmy smiling. What does that smile mean, Jimmy?
I don't really know.
Okay, Joshua says agree.
Oh, I forgot the answer.
Okay, a lot of us, when we talk about empathy, we always think it's a mindset. It's a mindset. We must be able to put ourselves in the client's shoe and try to understand where they're coming from, the emotions. But actually, the behavioral part is actually equally important. If you can understand, and the first thing that comes out of your mouth is a suggestion. my son got kicked out of school. Have you tried applying for other schools? Can you imagine how non-empathetic that feels like? So when we talk about empathy, for someone to really feel the empathy, you first need to be in that mindset where you're able to acknowledge and understand, but you must also be able to demonstrate that to the client. So then they can feel the empathy. Empathy starts from the heart. Yes, Luis, you want to explain a bit more?
Yeah, so first of all, I think to connect with someone is to connect the person according to his circumstances and how he's emotionally and feeling about the whole thing. So I guess you really need to start to connect with him at the heart level rather than, I mean, there's a connection at intellectual level but I mean the person really feels that you understand when you really connect at the from the heart level lah. I think I don't know how to put it in a better way, but I mean it's to really understand and feel what he feels lah.
Yeah.
I think Louis, I'll help you a little bit. It is actually from the heart. And it's all the things that you all have right now, I think. Otherwise you wouldn't be here. First of all, it's the self. Your self understanding of who you are, right? Your mindset is about caring, it's about compassion, it's about consideration, it's about your confidence in being able to handle situations. And then you translate that into a behavior. Because when you do that, right, what comes across are all the soft parts of who you are. And when in empathy, right, it's all about that. It's about you being able to relate directly to what the person is, and not just by supporting it, but also by acknowledging that it is an issue for the person.
Yeah.
So that very simply encapsulates what empathy really is.
Yeah. So thanks Louis for that. Thanks Lawrence for that and Louis for that. So at the end of the day, we need to know that we need to have the ability to connect both emotionally and having the mindset to want to connect that to want to understand them and connect internally with your own emotions or what they might be going through. But don't also emphasize on the ability to demonstrate it. Your affirmation is something a lot of conversations are missing. Tends to be in our practice, and we observe the practices, right? Affirmation is always quite low and maybe it's got a cultural element or whatever. But affirmation is a very important way to demonstrate empathy. Reflection is another one. What we did in the very first example, the guy who was drinking vodka, giving the daughter, the acknowledgement of the value, acknowledge that he has this value, that itself is a very strong component of demonstrating empathy. That you actually I can see where you're coming from. You really want to protect your daughter. I can kind of understand that you was a father. Yeah. So verbalizing it is important. Okay, but I think empathy, I think most of us here have the ability to do it. But maybe what I want to talk a bit more about is more of this idea of sympathy. So we tend to want to avoid this because there are certain impacts it has on the clients if we overdo it now, especially in the context of befriending. You're non-professional, you're like a friend, and as a friend, sometimes we do talk in ways that are a bit sympathetic as well. And there's a reason it actually does make the other person feels good. So I'll share with this video. I think this video is quite helpful to highlight some of the key pitfalls of sympathetic response.
Stuff goes wrong for all of us, and at some point, it's our turn again to land in the pit of despair. But it's the conversations that we have whilst we're down there and how we respond to them that will determine just how fast we get back out again. Essentially, people will have one of two responses to us when they see us in pain: sympathy or empathy. Take one, the sympathetic response. The problem with sympathy is that it's based on the three things that worsen and prolong the bad situation that the person is in: pity, victim status, and agreement. When we sympathize, we add our own sorrow, fear, annoyance, our pity to the other person's feelings. And whilst they now feel less lonely, being joined by another person confirms that the pit is real and bad. When we treat people like victims, they behave like victims. And agreement just makes the walls of the pit all the more intimidating. Sympathy always ends in the same way, with a bungled rescue attempt, which almost always fails, because deep down, we don't want to be rescued. We want to be right. Okay, everyone, take 2, quiet on set, roll camera, and empathy. When we empathise with someone, we have the power to change the game. By reflecting back the feeling that we see the person having, we show them that they have been understood. Deeply understood. By reflecting back their circumstances in plain words, we help them to step back and regain perspective, and importantly, the belief that they can repair their own situation for themselves. When all's said and done, sympathy can actually feel nice for a bit. But when it comes to getting to a solution, only empathy has the power to get someone up and running again. Okay. Take 3.
Okay, I'm going to explain a bit more with some examples. I know sometimes maybe not so clear, but I will share with you some examples and how those responses may actually trap someone. So I think you're here, sympathetic response actually does make someone feel good. When you complain about your boss, walao, my boss really jialat leh, always give me so much work, this is the worst boss I ever had. And then your friend says, wow, yeah, wow, I cannot imagine you very sway, kind of a boss like that. Your boss really teruk. If it's me, I'll quit already. You actually do feels good because there's agreement, right? And that yeah, actually someone actually understand there's someone with me inside the pit. But imagine after that you ask the question, what do you think you can do? What do you think they'll say? I don't know what can I do? Ask my boss you tell me fire the boss because now the responsibility is not theirs anymore. They are the victim of the situation. The boss is the problem. If you want me to do something about it, change the boss. And it can be a very big trap in our conversation with the guys, because later on it might bite us back when we try to ask them to do something about it. So I'm just going to quickly run through this. You let me know whether you think this is an empathetic response or sympathetic response. Your boss is really so unreasonable. No, he completely didn't think of your feeling at all. Someone complaining about the boss, right? And then the helper responded. Your boss is really so unreasonable. He completely didn't think of your feeling at all. Empathetic, sympathetic?
Sympathetic.
Sympathetic, right? Sympathetic.
Yeah. Now I become the real victim of the status, right? My boss is really a problem. Okay, so let's say he's talking about how the mother called the police and then he's arrested. Then the helper says, it's really painful being betrayed by the person you trusted most. Empathetic or sympathetic?
Empathetic.
Empathetic, right? Empathetic. Okay, so the difference between sympathetic response and empathetic response. Why is empathetic response able to get someone off the pit? Because maybe in my mind, I'm thinking my mother is the worst mother. My mother is a bloody teruk mother. Why got people call police on the son one? My mother is the worst, most jialat one. Then suddenly, actually, you mention this. You reflect the underlying feeling. It sounds like what is really hurting you is being betrayed by someone you trust. You shift now his blame of that person to something that is about his feeling, what he was actually being hurt by, the experience of it. So empathetic response tends to give clarity to why am I feeling that way, and it tends to move people away from blaming, because now it's about, oh, actually I'm feeling like that because of something that's like that. So the difference between sympathetic, in contrast, sympathy actually reinforces the exterior conditions as really the problem. Empathetic response tend to have the ability to gain clarity, because then you are starting to reflect about what is really hurting me in this situation. Can you all get the idea? So imagine
this is very cheap.
Yeah. So imagine now I'm the boy. I say, wow, my mother very jialat lah. My mother, wow, cannot make it lah. Where got mother like that one? Your mother where got call police on me? Somehow I don't know. All this while she say take care of me. Then she call police. Now he's blaming the mother, right? And then imagine if a sympathetic response goes like that. Wow, actually, Andrew, your mother really jialat. I cannot imagine why your mother can do this to you. Then the conversation gone already lah. You want to later ask him what he can do to improve the relationship with the mother, you can forget about it. But imagine now you give an empathetic response. It sounds like, what you already heard what is really hurting you is the fact that you feel like you've been betrayed by the person you trust a lot, which is your mother. It sounds like you actually trust your mother a lot, but you know, the fact that she called the police makes you feel very hurt. Can you see now the issue is no longer the mother? The issue now becomes, actually I feel betrayed. That is my problem. I need to because I really trust her a lot. So the perspective starts to shift. From the mother is the problem, my mother is the most thorough mother. Now suddenly that, yeah, actually why I'm struggling is because I don't like being betrayed. I just felt this sense of betrayal. Florence, is it a bit clearer? So just now so the video talk about why empathetic response can bring someone out of the pit is because empathetic response tends to give clarity to a person about what they are going through but sympathetic response tends to reinforce the problem. Okay, I'm going to skip the rest of this example. Maybe I'll give you one more example of empathetic response. You feel that your family don't appreciate your sacrifices for them. Imagine this guy say, you know, I've been working so hard. After I come out, I'm trying to please my family. I go to the job, and then every day I come back home, I still do household chore. Actually, let's say a lady offender. I have no time. I still take care of the children. You know, just for the family to really understand that I'm trying my best to be my mother in the family. Then my family still nagging at me. You know, my mother don't appreciate me. My children are like ignoring me. You know, this family, I don't know even how they can. And then you suddenly say, you feel hurt that your family don't appreciate your sacrifices for them. From the family as a problem, now they have shifted to actually what I'm really being bothered by is that I don't feel appreciated. With non-appreciation, you can ask, how else do you think you can find appreciation? That question becomes possible because it's not about the family. But if it's about family, then the question will be, do you think you can change your family member? Do you think what can you do about it? Then it's very difficult already, you're stuck already. Okay, so empathetic response tends to be able to draw out and give a bit of clarity to what the client is really going through. Any question this part? I know it's a bit like yeah. Any thoughts? Thanks, Florence, for the clarification. Okay, so far surviving. I want to leave the 15 minutes.
Surviving.
Okay. So my last point is actually back to what all you have been talking about just now, which is very important. So we covered non-judgmental. Empathy is important. Be mindful of sympathetic response because it will make it very difficult when you want the person to take ownership towards the problem later on. And the last one is actually genuine. I'm going to simplify this. This is what you guys have been talking about just now. If I ask you back the question just now, back to the father with drinking vodka, right, Bina? The children, right? Then my question to all of you is, would you all want to handle it at some point of the conversation, if you can, with him? Or would you choose to leave it aside? So the context is he has domestic violence before, history of domestic violence, and now he's reintegrating his family and he's doing this. How many of you would still want to talk about the alcohol issue? Yeah, I see Lauren nodding.
Yeah.
How many of you will let go of the issue? That means since I'm defender, I'm talking about don't get into crime, right? I don't want, this is not my pasta, I don't really want to talk about it. How many of you will let it go? All of you wouldn't, right? You'll somehow address it, right? Okay, then the next question becomes important. When you want to address it, what is the intention for doing so? All right, this becomes very important because if my intention is that I'm worried for him, like what Jimmy said, he's worried for the guy who has history of sexual offenses. I'm worried for him because he may get into more trouble. I'm worried for the daughter. I'm worried for the children, correct? Versus, this is wrong. Alcohol is wrong. Children cannot have alcohol is also wrong. The father is wrong. It's a very moralistic, value-driven kind of perspective. That's when we have to be careful. Okay? Or the value is not coming from the best interest of the client. It's actually coming from other factors, the roles that you're playing. For example, he's a sexual offender. He goes in the community. What if he sexual offends another person? What is the risk to the community? Then your lens is actually you're playing a different hat now. The reason why you are intervening becomes very different. Okay, no? And it may
because
not always...
I think sometimes we do it just for our own peace of mind, as a befriender.
Yeah. Thanks, Florence. Very, very good point, right? Because
nothing to do with them. We just feel that now we have to do this, in order for us to, feel good about ourselves as a befriender.
Also, right, we say, hey, if I don't talk about this, later got problem, will I get into trouble or not? Also possible, right? So, so the idea of genuine is the last concern. I think just now we brought the first case, we talked about non-judgment. Then the question, I think the question that a lot of us have in the class was, then do we want to address it? We talk about non-judgment, do we still address it, right? Yes, if you feel that you want to address it, you should address it, but the intention of why you address it is important. At the end of the day, it must be in the genuine interest for the well-being of that person or the people around him. If you are coming in from the perspective of your head, your role, for example, this person want to quit his job. He says his job not fitting. Then I think of the employer. Well, the employer giving so many chances, do so much thing. Let me try to persuade him back in. Then the intention is somehow kind of not really in the best interest of the individual anymore. It's in the interest of the employer. For whatever reason you might have lah. Perhaps the employer help you put on board a lot of other beneficiaries because you asked him to. He's been very helpful for you. So we have to be a bit careful about our intention. And this part okay?
Waifu, this is William. So I'm wondering
William.
whether what you're saying is perhaps to always consider, I mean, the more fundamental first is also the safety of the client and also the people around. So in this case, the Ribena one, you would be concerned about not just the client's well-being, but also the safety of the children, right?
Yes.
So for sex offenders, it's suppose if he has a certain just to cite a more extreme example. So if the person say he has a plan or he has a strong urges towards young children, then the safety concern it's not just about his well-being, but also the safety of the people involved. So that will also help us to decide whether we should continue to stay on issues or we should actually just move away.
So thanks, William, for that. Because I mean there are certain baseline concerns. For example, if the person have harm, there's whatever he's going to do is have some harm to someone or around them, themselves or people around them. That's the baseline consideration now. Because there's actual real consequences. So yes, that's important. But beyond that, then I think you should be looking at the interest of the individual. But even in the sorry, William, I'm just going to throw out my thoughts. So this is a bit challenging because even in the case of, let's say this person have a history of sexual offending with children, right? And we know that actually, like what Jimmy said, most of the chance him going back to the industry that has to do with youth is very low already. But in your role as a befriender and he's telling you his intention to working towards getting back in the industry, and you know there's a risk you have highlighted to him and he's not willing to let that go, right? Then I'm also wondering whether it's the role of the befriender to actually take on the head to actually prevent him from going back in because of the potential risk and harm that he might cause to the others. Or should it be then the roles of those people who are running those centers or the agencies to take up that role? This is also a very tricky question because we have to be a bit clear because end of the day, your role is to support the individual. If you take on the head of the other players in the sector, you may then compromise your ability to support the individual. But not knowing about, of course, don't go in ignorant. You also have to be aware because going in ignorant and then supporting whatever he wants to do and not even highlighting the risk that is there for him or the people around him is also not the right way to go. Louis, you have some thoughts? Yes, sorry.
Sometimes they become our friend. So we're just advising another friend, hey, how come you go into this job? Hi, you know the dangers, right? Blah, 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 blah. Yeah. So we forget that the agency should be the one handling the case in that sense.
Yeah, so just to share about, like, for example, you know this guy is not very reliable, but he's looking for a job. And you know that if you, whatever goodwill you put into it to pull him the job, this guy may not turn out on the first day, or he may turn up for 3 days and after that you start to throw MC, right? Then the question here then becomes, should you help him and rely on your contacts to help him, knowing that this guy, probably based on your assessment of what he has behaved so far, not very reliable, is likely to let down your friend contact that you're relying on. Versus you don't want to help because you also want to protect your potential employer contact you have, that he don't get burned by this guy who don't turn out, because it has happened before. I think we all know you prefer the job. The first day the employer call you, hey, your person never turn up for job, right? So this has happened, right? So then sometimes this is also a dilemma we are in, but we do. So for me personally, I will take the approach that, okay, I do it one time lah. I do it one time. I tell the guy, you don't let this employer down because he really make the effort. And at the same time, I let the employer know that this guy is very unpredictable. If he does it one time, after that, I think I will call you a limit lah. Say I've really given you your option is there, you didn't take it, then subsequently I think it's so up to yourself lah. Open market, I will help you in the open market, but you know I'm not going to call in my connections to help you to get a job really. This is the kind of dilemma that we face. Yeah.
Thanks for that. Actually, I go back into then William's point also quite important now, because if you really feel that, let's say you have contact to preschool, and then this person have this offender, and to you don't feel he's ready and he wants to do it. You don't want to be non-supportive, but then the question is you also don't want to end up going out to refer him to something that you don't think he's ready for, because then it's very incongruent with you as a helper, what you are thinking about his situation. I think at the end of the day, you don't need to protect yourself as a helper. To what is your boundary in your ability to support them? Yeah, so you might not want to be the connection to facilitate, but you could still be supportive, but not to the point where you want to be the facilitator of doing very hard to just get him to the job that he wants. Then I think that becomes a bit tricky which a lot of internally you'll struggle also
Because the thing is, normally potential connections, right? If you're going to refer a lot of cases, so then you also have to think about not burning the bridge with him. The first one you give so jialat one. Second one you give so jialat. The third one, then you burn the bridge for other potential beneficiaries you're trying to help lah.
Yeah. Louis, I must say you're very kind. I won't. I'll just say, okay, yeah, you should apply for it. That's very good. Yeah, keep it up.
Yeah, open market lah. You open market, I say good job. But because I'm not involved in getting the job, right? So it's okay to play the role of supporter.
But actually, I thought it depends. I mean, the way your point I thought is what maybe helpful is because it depends on whose issue is this, right? Because if it's my friend and if I associate and I know, if I then recommend you, then sekali you burn the bridges he doesn't recommend you more. Actually, that will be my issues, right? So I mean, so it's not just the issue of this beneficiary. So I think you have to consider whose issue is this. So suppose if it's a job that I mean he wants to go and do a certain job, it's not really, but if he doesn't go for it, he'll be the one taking the consequence. So actually that's more of his issues. So I thought maybe having clarity in terms of whose issue it is. I mean, going back to the child is because my concern is that the issue is no longer just the client, but when the child is involved and there are certain harm done. I mean, of course, what is considered as harm, we have to be clear about it. If we are not clear, because some being befrienders were not clear, of course, we can escalate to our managers or coordinators to ask for it. But I think that it's no longer just the client's issue, but when certain harm is done, it's also there are victims involved. So it won't be so straightforward. Yeah. But of course, I think I still point that sometimes, of course, not everything the befriender should be the one being responsible and taking charge and solving the situation. It's a collective. What as Wi-Fi say, there will be other professionals or other people should come in as well.
Exactly, William. I think it's important for us also to know our boundaries, because that's why we have so many agencies here, right? Because they are counselors there that specializes in this areas, and we got to know when to let go. In the case of the drinking issue, I think it's much more than what a befriender can do, because it impacts the family, and that requires some specialist counseling advice coming in. And you can let go. It's okay. I think it's important for us to know when to let go as well. Otherwise, we just end up taking everything, right? And we're not in a position to actually do it professionally. It's very dangerous. It really is. That's my point of view. Okay.
Thanks. So I think there's a good discussion, because if you are starting to hear, right, we are going back to, there's one level where your awareness, right, your awareness of why you're behaving and responding in certain ways. Then there's another level that you're now looking at is actually the roles that you're playing really, because the roles actually also will affect how you think about how you should be responding. And I think in befriending them, it becomes a lot more complicated, right? Because even as Louis was saying, sharing my personal contact to hire the guy, right? I don't know whether that is in some agency you don't pass your personal contact out to the client. As a befriender, maybe because you are a befriender, maybe you are able to support if you can to extend your personal network, and then that actually blurs a lot of boundaries and makes it more complex, lah. Yeah. So I think these are the dilemma. So at the end of the day, there's no one way to answer this dilemma. But what's more important is, I think I always have this thought that I always share. If you face a case and you're not sure whether you're doing the right thing, the question is, are you willing to talk to a network of people around you who can support you? The moment you feel that I don't feel very comfortable, I want to hide this, I don't think I need to talk, then you know there's certain things, there's a red flag maybe. There's something that you're doing there that may be quite risky. So you can't really tell the baseline will be whether you're open to sharing this with someone if you are in doubt. Yeah.
Jimmy, I still remember what you said to me. It stuck with me, right? When we had the meeting at Saka, right? You and another person, another befriender told me this, right? Your job is only to ask questions. It is not to give advice. I still remember that. You said that very clearly during the meeting we had. So I think we mustn't forget the roles that we play as well. Otherwise, we could be in dangerous territories.
Yeah.
Hey, thank you all. I just have one last slide. I think I'll go through it very quickly. This is my last slide.
I throw one spanner in.
Oh yeah.
Okay, I throw one spanner in. Okay, so one of the beneficiaries that within Canvas we're helping. Okay, he had some issue with his employer in terms of employment treatment. That means as in there was some injury he suffered from workplace injury, and then there was some dispute over the payment of salary and all that, and I think from that he was also terminated lah. Okay, so he turned to Canvas for help because he was working a full-time job and he's also our Canvas artist. Then whose job is it to help him? I mean, as in, yes, we can talk about referring him to I think this thing called TTM or something like that, where there's a tripartite council to refer him and all that. But at the same time, there's also a need for people to take up the bit of the letter writing and then navigate in terms of like which agency to go to. Because if he doesn't, there really isn't anyone out there to do that kind of stuff. You can say, oh, this is not my job. I only befriender. I'm here to support you emotionally. But when it comes down to the practical things, right, when he need that at that moment, right, your presence and your absence of practical help, right, actually makes a difference from their perspective of whether you're a genuine helper or not. You see, you can draw the line and say, oh, this one not my level. This one, I mean, I can't do counseling. I can't do some things. But you know, even searching out the resources for the chat makes a lot of difference in terms of linking them up to professional resources. And you know, you need someone to do the grind work of putting up the appeal letter and things like that. So if you want to draw the line so clearly, right, you can. But the thing is that you actually would, from his perspective, lose his idea of what a helper should be lah. I can say that that you will be very effective in straight away. The person feels that actually you're not very helpful. You here only to talk to me, copy with me every other week. But when I need the help, you're not there.
Yeah, good point, Louis. Genuine, right? Being genuine is important. Honesty, sincere. So reaching out further. Anyway, to answer your question about this, Bob, not getting paid right, being treated badly, TAFAP is the organization. They do A to Z. They help with appeal, and then the arbitration court will be brought into play as well.
Yep.
So there are bodies there that actually help. We just need to be more conscious of it and aware that there are these bodies, and these are not things that I would do. I would actually ask people in TAFAP to do it for me. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, so it's important for us to know that. So to my previous point, right, Waifu, I know you're going to end. To my previous point, it's important for us to know who these networks are. The more we know, the easier it is for us to translate it across to these other people. And I believe that the counseling services, right, they have all the different specialists there. We should make use of them. But we need to understand what they do first. I think it's so important. The awareness and understanding.
Yeah. So Lawrence, thanks for that. Actually, in the end, we did turn to some agency, but in the end, we had to do the the resource finding because I think the guy is not good at social media lah. So in the end, we did the work in terms of finding out who can we turn to and all that, and then connect them, and then still you need to be in the way of being still physically involved in some capacity.
Oh, yeah,
as
yeah,
a
yeah.
befriender at the side lah.
For sure,
Yeah.
for sure. Yes.
I think, Luis, what you did is really wonderful because it really helped the other party because it's really in desperate need of help. So I think that was appropriate as a friend coming in to, facilitate him going to the next level.
Yeah, so I guess befriender very hard to draw the line so clearly at times lah. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with Louis. I think it's pretty hard. Because my status, I'm a befriender with the Salvation Army. So actually, I had two cases where a lot of these legal matters were involved, and also my direct supervisor, obviously, they told me that TSA can help with it. So what I did was actually to bring them to an MP. That's one. Another one is bringing them to a concierge CC. So actually, all of the 400 government services are under concierge CC. Just park them there. They actually have personnel who attend to them, write up for them, connect them to all agencies. And, less than a week, they're actually paired up with a legal aid, with a lawyer, and they settle with the employer. So, amazing. Singapore is pretty amazing. So I think that's another resource that a lot of befrienders tend to overlook. The concierge CC, there's 8 now all around wide Singapore. So I think that's one of the stop point that as a befriendee we should always orientate our beneficiaries, our client to, so they know that if they can't get back to us, there's always someone out there who can attend to them. Yeah.
Okay. Louis, how many people, how many members in the maze?
Currently 50.
100?
50.
And then the dissenters? The sisters?
The befrienders, is it?
No, the other one. The other group that you have.
Which is the other group?
The new group that you formed.
New group, there's only one
The network, the dissenter.
He's talking about
Diseases Network, is it? Or that's the government one, that one.
Okay, it doesn't matter. But for us, right, I think that's a great start there. You have a bunch of people who have knowledge. You start from there. That's a community. You go out there, get your network going, get your resources. If you have a question, I have this issue, can you all help me? Straight away, you'll get somebody answered because they know. That's a great start. This community that we have right now is actually a great start. That's why we're a community. We network, we resource.
Actually, how many talks did you have already? Because I only just joined for the first time, so I don't know. I mean, nobody told me about this. I mean, it's really good. Really good, but it's the first time that I'm joining because I was only told.
8th session already. This is our 8th. Yeah.
Oh, is it 8th session? Oh, I don't know because the CCS people only just told me. Okay lah, yeah.
That means their head never go and disseminate lah. Must disseminate ma.
Maybe that's why it's the first time that I hear of it.
Nah, I shall ask Philip about it. I say, hey, you are volunteer. Say during meeting recorded that. not until now. So is it you all never sent out to your volunteers? Yeah. So this is meant to help all the volunteers lah. But anyway, it's recorded. So even if you miss it, you can still refer to other YouTube.
Oh really?
Yes, it's on YouTube. Oh, this I also don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, so
okay.
Yeah, maybe I can ask June. Okay.
But my question is, if you have any questions, ask us. I'm sure Jimmy, Waifu, Lois, everybody here, right, would be glad to help if they can, and they will answer your question. If not, they will find somebody that can. So it's a great place to start.
Hey Yuna, the concierge CCR, I never heard of it. You're able to give us the contact, no?
Okay.
I think you went to search for it, is it?
Yeah, do search under Service SG. Yeah,
Service
actually, I
SG.
came. Yeah, Service SG. They will actually list 5 plus 3 more. They have big satellite concierge CC. They name themselves concierge CC. So Service SG. They have the satellite one will have up to 400 government services. The smaller one, smaller CC, they will actually have up to 200 plus services. So everything under the roof, whatever the officers there, they will just help. No questions asked. The befriender just have to be there, just show presence. And then after that, I realized whenever my client have issues, they come to a point where, Yuna, I have this problem, I know how to solve it. I went to this CC and this is the result that I get. So slowly, they actually tear away from you and get back into the community. And the officials from Service SG will also try their best to get these people back into the community. So they actually have a few agencies that they will refer to also. And if they need help with SSO, rather than always going back to the befrienders or the befriendees, what the befriendees can do is that they will go to the Service SG centers and the officials there will facilitate for them. So it gives them a lot of empowerment rather than just always going back to the main agency that they are referred to from prison or the befrienders. Yeah. So it's under Service SG.
So housing, all this are also settled under Service SG. Let's say the person housing
okay.
issue, HDB and all.
Yes, correct. So they
Wow.
actually can connect you to HDB. A lot of things. Actually, it took me by surprise also. Because my first intention when I had my first ever client was to bring him to the nearest CC. And so happened that CC was Service SG CC, concierge CC. So I was given a full explanation of all the services by the managers. I'm like, oh wow, okay. So since then, me and a few of my teammates actually, whenever we get a client, that's the first stop that we will bring our befriendee to. Yeah. And then from there, they slowly, some of them even had, I think losing ICs is pretty common. So apart from going back to the MP session, they also actually went to Service SG centers and, seek help. They were also embroiled in a few legal lawsuits, which I think it's not that we can't help, but we have our limitation. So they ended up going to Service SG centers and they actually made referrals to the MP and did all of the write-up for them, everything. Because I had the so-called fortune to have befriendees who are actually illiterate, a few of them. So yeah, they're amazing.
Wow, okay.
So this is even better than going to SSO.
I wouldn't say better, but I would say is that because they have a lot of services that they can connect you to. So it's
because
like
usually I will bring them to SSO lah.
Because SSO is really, I think they have selected services that they can attend to. So Service SG, the SSO also falls under Service SG, so they can actually do referrals or direct them to the organizations that they need to go to or do any write-up. They can actually assist them from there. Yeah.
So they connect you by locality or where you live lah.
Yes, that's right.
Okay. So rental flat, that means they consider the rental flat lah, where they live in the rental flat lah. Is it? Because our guys don't have a place to stay.
Yeah, okay. So it's like okay, that's where it gets a little bit tricky, but the thing is there's no stone unturned. So whatever it is, the first step is for them to set foot inside. Then the officers will actually manage the issues one by one. Yeah. So they as long as they are truthful enough to share what are their concerns, what are the considerations and things like that, they can actually assist. Of course, like things like GSS, housing and all this, it will take time. But yeah, I would say that they get somehow rather attention rather than they go around the whole big loop of meeting MP first and then meeting other various organization, and then end up they are just still going around that circle. Yeah, it's better to actually have one to go to this one-stop center. Yeah.
Sounds like it's a very good place for us. Say go to any Service SG, even community card run by PA. Oh, Angela mentioned. Yeah, so sounds good lah.
Yeah, but then this is only, I think, for Punggol and for, I think there are only two service centers, right? The Punggol one and the Tampines one. Then what about those on the other side of Singapore?
No, actually there's more. If you scroll down further on the Service SG side, there's actually two in the west area. There's also one at Ang Mo Kio, Mountbatten. Yeah, there's actually more. Total 8 centers now.
I thought signing them to SSO would be a more direct method to get help and all that, no? So this is more on the higher level. Are they complementing each other, or are they like going to like get rid of SSO, that kind of thing? Anybody knows? I mean, I don't know what the government.
What's SSO?
Social service organization.
Social service organization. At TCs, they have all the SSO office.
Yeah, because the Service SG is run by ministry.
That's by PMO office, don't they say?
Yeah.
I think Service SG is a coordinating body lah.
It's a body of everybody. It's a collection of.
Either or they're trying to disseminate and then slowly, you know.
The building
because I was told that SSO is the best place for people to go for if they need help, especially got no job, nowhere to stay. Then they will like reach them out to the various.
SSO cover 5, right? No,
yeah.
Central and then East, West, North, South. Yeah.
Okay,
With the
so
5
the thing, yeah, so I think it depends on what your client need also. If you know that your client needs only like financial assistance and then housing is somewhat covered and then they need like food ration, then SSO is sufficient for them. But if they actually need more, they may be illiterate or they may actually occasionally need help to decipher what are the bank statements all about. No, you can't possibly
I
be
see.
there for them every time. However,
Right.
they can always pop by to the SSO office and seek help. That's another avenue. Yeah.
So I guess it helps when you have a multiple of issues to deal with. Then you go to this service SG where they can actually be a bit of like the connecting center for all the different help they need lah. Not a simple one case thing, but a multiple. Wow, a lot of things to settle one, right? Something like that lah.
Like your claim for compensation, yeah.
Yeah, even for single case, my guy actually do not know how to use the voucher because he's illiterate. So they actually printed out for him, cut it out for him, and brought him to shops around on how to use the GST voucher. So even that's something simple like that, they can do it for them. Yeah.
Okay.
Wow, thank you everyone. I'm really learning a lot from you guys. The repertoire of knowledge and resources here is amazing.
We learn about otherwise we keep on going to the SSO only.
Yeah. I think Yuna knows a lot because she's been helping the guys who come out straight from prison. So those directly released a lot of problem. We refer to Salvation Army. So they are the ones who hands-on take on these cases where we all take for granted. But they help them to connect with the very essential stuff. That's why they are so experienced.
Yeah.
Correct, Yuna?
No, not really. Actually, I learned from all the other agencies. So I think, actually we all learn from one another. Yeah, expertise and build on from there.
Yeah. Okay, with this, actually I think the last slide I'll skip now because that one takes a while to understand, but I'll skip it. So I think that's the end of the talk for my side. Maybe before we end, I know it's past the time already lah. Anyone have any other last things you want to clarify or share before I pass it to Luis?
No.
Okay.
No more session now.
No more session now.
Oh, no more session. Oh,
have. I think Luis have, right?
Yeah. Every month we have. It's always the last Wednesday night of every month.
Oh, is
so
it?
you just count the last Wednesday night. Yeah, so it starts at 7:30, officially ends at 9. But if you want to stay back beyond 9, feel free to do so because then, there may be other discussions that we want to have. Like right now, it's cost 9, but I don't see anybody wanting to leave. The kind of thing. Yeah, but officially ends at 9. So we will record the session and pump into Zoom. Hopefully, your agency reps will send it out to you all because that's the expectation. And then we also pump it into YouTube so that everybody can access it. Actually, we have a max channel. Yeah. So so that's how we do it. And then in future, just to share that the Diseases Network will also be partnering Amaze in having these sessions. So we'll have a physical session on Saturday morning as well. So that's more focusing on discussion based on the Zoom recording session. But that will start with the next session. That means the September one. We'll have a session by LCCS on restorative practice. Yeah, so that will be in October, and then then this is now currently an 18-month session. We have sessions until June next year and then from there we will carry on with our season 2. So now we are now in season 1.
Yeah. Okay. So it's always the last Wednesday from 7:30 p.m. to 9 p.m.
Yes, correct.
Okay.
Yes, correct. Yeah, so we want to thank Waifu for this 2 series. I think he's really put his heart into taking his materials from his actual training to come and teach us. He's actually taking from his professional training and doing this pro bono. So we really want to thank him.
Thanks for having me here. Thank you, everybody. thanks for helping me keep this alive. Like not later I scared I'm talking to everyone not responding to me.
Yeah, but I think it's a good discussion. Actually, I think if you have any more questions, I can ask because this is really a good time to talk about the real practical things that we have. Actually, we face many challenges in helping. I myself also learned the hard way. And sometimes we learn, sometimes to tell the truth, even if people tell us good advice on what to do, not to do, sometimes we are very stubborn. I mean, I speak for myself that I need to learn the hard way that actually doesn't work. Because I think that, maybe this person is an exception. But actually, sometimes I learned that actually good advice that people have gained in the past from their hard knocks, I should just stay in. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yes. Yeah. So I think there is one thing that you need your help is to fill up this survey form. This one is to let everyone know that and let you this waifu know that he's done a good job lah. So please fill up the survey feedback form. The last session, actually I heard the feedback was very good lah, but I don't know why so few people fill out the survey form.
Yeah, thank you everyone. Thank you. Thanks for your support.
Okay.
And the question.
See you guys.
Yes, take care.
All right, bye then. Thanks.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, good to see all of you again.
Yeah.
Actually,
Okay,
the DRP program, try to come, okay? Try to come.
Yeah, okay.
Must give must have new program, the most of the
Yes,
programs
yes. September onwards, all new already. September,
Okay.
Yeah, all
Thanks.
new already.
All right,
Come
take care.
Okay, thank
See you all again.
Thank you so
Bye.
much. See you.
See
Good
you.
night.
Thank you all.
Bye.
Good
Thanks for
night.
your sharing. Yeah.
Good night.
Hey, Louis, thanks for everything.
Yeah. I'll shut down. Okay.
Yes. Okay, thank you.
Bye.
See you. Bye-bye.